Welcome back to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Here at Waves Business Coaching, we believe that people are the most difficult, complex, and expensive part of running every business. We want to help business leaders build the dream team they need so that they can reclaim their freedom and do the best in their role as a leader. This week on the podcast, I interview John Meyer. He built and sold a 7-figure agency that worked with some really major clients, and now he started his own coaching business to help entrepreneurs avoid burnout and really thrive in their roles. John has seen what this looks like from the other side, running a major business, and now he wants to make sure that entrepreneurs don't go through the same thing. We talked through some really great stuff, like some 5 daily non-negotiables when running your own business, a three-legged stool to help you run your business. Some really great stuff and great frameworks from John in this episode. I wrote a book called Master Your First Job. It's the remarkable path from first day to first promotion. This is the book that every young employee needs and every employer wishes they had. I want to give you a free copy. If you go to masteryourfirstjob.com/free, that's masteryourfirstjob.com/free, you can get a free e-copy of the book. Download it there. Love for you to have it. It's a great tool, great resource for the young employee that either you are or in your life. Let's dive into my conversation with John Meyer. John, thanks so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. I'd love for you to share a little bit about you and your story.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. So I am a native South Dakotan here, live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I went to school as a communication major, which I always say is short for folks who have no idea what they want to do with their life. I did a little bit of everything in high school, right? Small town, South Dakota. So I was playing sports, I was doing debate, I was doing choir. And what I realized is I like to talk to people and I like working with people. And it's funny, when I graduated from the liberal arts degree, kind of at the time of the rise of social media and everyone was building mobile apps, and all of a sudden it was like, crap, I should have been a developer, right? I should have had a hard, tangible skill and I could be making millions of dollars right now.
Right.
And so initially a little bit of maybe regret of this liberal arts communications degree. And then, and I can get to this part, but I became a CEO of a creative agency. And what I realized is, what did we do in college? We wrote a lot of papers. We worked with groups of people, and I gave presentations. And then what did I inevitably do as a CEO? I wrote a lot of emails. I worked with groups of people, and I gave presentations. So I'm a baseball fan. It's I got a lot of at-bats in college, and that's what was huge. So I was really curious about entrepreneurship, but after I could just hear my parents' voice in my head. There was a job fair senior year at Luther College, took the interview, multiple rounds of interviews, moved up to Minneapolis and started my career in corporate as a consultant. Only made it 11 months. I remember about 4 months in, I called my dad and I was like, I just don't think this is for me. He, of course, is like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'll start my own thing maybe. And he said, why don't you stick it out a year, which is the total dad thing to say, right?
Yeah.
And as a father of 2 girls, I think, what would I say if Margot called me? So we made it 11 months. And then my older brother and I there was a grant through the state of South Dakota. It was an economic development grant to get, I think specifically kind of some of the brain drain young people to come back home, start businesses. The 2 pieces of requirements were it had to involve technology and it had to be based in South Dakota. So we got this $15,000 grant, which, seemed like so much money. Years later, didn't even make payroll. And we moved back home and started this business. And this is June of 2009. And we were helping South Dakota companies learn social media, because people don't even remember this, but Facebook had just gotten off of college campuses. Twitter was a brand new thing. YouTube is the number 2 search engine. People just weren't ready for the fact that your customers are looking for you. Can they find you on the internet? And so the problem with that business, though, is we kind of were like these social media brothers, and we had to educate before we could actually charge money. And so anytime you have to teach first, you kind of explain your value prop, it's not a great business to be in. I wouldn't recommend it. And we were also bad entrepreneurs, just didn't understand the value of our time, our hourly rate, how to package things. And so this led to my second business, which was the thing I did for a while, for a decade. My business partner, Amy, was our first employee. And we said, what if we just did one thing and we tried to be world-class at that? So This is summer of 2011, and we started making infographics, because at that time on the internet, back in the old the old 2/3, 1/3, every website had the sidebar and then the 2/3 main body, and all of a sudden these visual scrolling pictures were exploding. And at the time, it was Even bad infographics were going viral, but we were like, let's make good ones and maybe we can be best in the world at them. And so we started this company on that one idea to help businesses tell their story. And we grew that agency. We ended up working with some of the world's best brands like Marriott, Google, Netflix, Major League Baseball, telling stories through pictures. And so that was called Lemonly. Did that for 10 years, scaled it to a few million in revenue, about 20 employees, and sold that in 2021. Had a little bit of a, what do I want to do, existential crisis in 2022, and then ended up basically coaching the person I used to be. And so today I coach creative entrepreneurs in two ways. I have a group program called No More Solo for I'd say those creatives who maybe quit their job and are going out on their own, maybe making 100K, 10, 15K a month, and realize on the hamster wheel of I got to get off of this. And then I have a one-on-one program for people running like agencies, like CEOs and founders. So that's me today.
That's awesome. So I want to go back a little bit, and you might have said this. What was your first job?
Well, my very first job in Brookings, South Dakota was a place called Zesto. It was an ice cream shop, like a local homegrown South Dakota owned ice cream parlor. And I always remember the gentleman told me the first day I had to just sit there and make cones, like just continue to make a cone because a cone needs a good base.
That's
and
right.
if you get if you're doing a dipped cone, you got to put that thing upside down. You don't want it. And it happened to me one time. The whole thing just falls into the fudge.
Man.
And so I remember him telling me like making an ice cream cone is like riding a bicycle. Like once you do it, you'll be able to do it for life. So then in college, like at the, in the, like the cafeteria, sometimes there's like the ice cream machine. I would like sit there and make a badass cone and be like, see, still got it. I don't know if I have it now. It's been like 20 years more. So
I do think it's like, I haven't gone a 20-year gap, but I do think it's like riding a bike. I worked at Chick-fil-A and we had the soft serve machine. So yeah, once you get it, you got it. And so the most recent time I did it, we went on a cruise last year. And of course they've got the soft serve machine out that's self-serve, and watching people attempt it who've never done it is very funny because I'm like, oh, these poor people having to clean up this mess because it's just everywhere. And then you walk up and just make a perfect one. And I just hope there's someone watching that's like, oh my gosh, how?
What a legend. What a legend.
Right. I'm like, that's my hidden talent is I can still make a good ice cream cone.
Well, and he made me measure it, right? Small, medium, large. So that and then I weighed it to make sure I wasn't giving too much.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my first job. I wish I could remember what the hourly rate was. I bet it was like maybe $6.50, $7.
I started at $7.25. So there you go. Which is I think still minimum wage. Kind of crazy. Another topic for another day. But yeah, I got paid nothing for that. Dude, I mean, I'll get nerdy for a second. Yeah, weighing it's so important because, I mean, I'll say at Chick-fil-A, one of the highest waste items is ice cream.
Really?
Because it's expensive. Dairy's expensive, and it's one of those items that everyone does it a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it's not like a fry carton where you're one or two fries from getting it perfect pretty much every time. Okay. Like an ice cream cone, well, right. And and the carton holds it a certain way, but like an ice cream cone, you get the same person make 5 ice cream cones. It's probably 5 different weights. And everyone wants to, lean to overdoing it than underdoing it anyway. Ice cream, Zesto. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's dive into what you do. And I want to start with your one-liner, which I know you have your No More Solo group coaching. You help creative entrepreneurs double their revenue without burning out. I want to dig into that a little bit. So you were someone who went out on your own, and you said you're coaching now the person you used to be. What are some of those factors that led into burnout? And I feel like it's a buzzword nowadays. Everyone kind of talks about it, but what specifically led to that feeling of burnout? Or what do you see with your clients?
Yeah, I think what happens, especially creatives, right? They love the work. And so they come out of school, and I'm talking about a graphic designer, a photographer, a videographer, a copywriter, a web developer. They love the craft, and that's why they do it. And likely they're doing it at an agency, maybe in-house. And somewhere along that journey, they're a few years in, and they're like, you know what? Like, I think I could do this myself. Like, I think I can do this better. Like, I want to go find my type of clients instead of be told of what clients to work on. And so and I thought this all the time when I employed 20 of them. I was like, man, I didn't even look across my office and be like, they probably could make more money on their own than what I can pay them. But they're creatives, and they don't always want to have to sell and do invoicing and wear all the hats that it requires starting a business, as you know. And so that's where No More Solo came in as a name, is like, I believe if you go out on your own, and what happens to these folks, for about 12 months, they grind. You sell like a 20K project, you're pumped. 6 weeks later, you're about ready to finish that 20K project. You're ready to send the files back, and you realize, oh shit, I don't have anything to do next. And so you're in this hunter-gatherer moment of like feast or famine, where you do a project and then you don't do. So you have a 20K month and then a 5K month. And my philosophy is the only way through that is to grow. And that's a little uncomfortable, but I kind of think this glamorizing, I guess that's a word, of the solopreneur journey is a little bit, it's false. So either some amazing solopreneur that you think of who's on Instagram talking about their life isn't actually a solopreneur, because they have a virtual assistant, they have operators in the background, they've built a team. Or I think of like the nomad solopreneur who's like, hey, I'm in Thailand working by the beach. Well, then they're working like 7 days a week. And if they, heaven forbid, get sick or, take a week off, their business just stalls out. And I'll tell you what, like, there's no better feeling at Lemonly. I would sell infographics, I would delegate work, and I would make money. And there's really no better feeling than doing that. Like, making money while you sleep. It's not making money while you sleep, but it's making money while you can be having a coffee with somebody or selling the next project.
Right.
And so what I try to help with folks in this 12-week program is recognize, let's build a sales and marketing engine that repeats itself, so that as you're doing the work, you're also getting more work. And then let's do the things that you love to do. And so that might mean just starting simple with like a virtual assistant. Maybe it's a contractor. I'm not saying you have to go out and hire a salary, because you're maybe not ready yet. So what I'm trying to help these people do is go from that consistent, get to like 10K a month, and then let's figure out how to get it to 20 each month.
That's great. Yeah, I can empathize. I've told people that, I love the work, right? Like, I love meeting with clients. I love coaching. I love helping other people win. I hate sales. I'm like, I feel like it's a common thing, is it's like, oh man, you can only eat what you kill, right? So like going out and doing that is tough. So for someone like me, man, how can I get past this hatred of sales?
Yeah.
I think most good people, right? We don't want to be the used car salesman.
Yes.
And I think the first step in getting over that is, I know that I'm selling something that's helpful and works and is a good value. And so I'm like, I'm not trying to push a bad car. I am actually selling something that works and I believe in.
Yeah.
Right. But even beyond that.
Yeah, let's talk about where sales come from. I think one of the things is to understand, how do you get work?
Yeah.
And I call this the three-legged stool of growth. So like, if you imagine a little end table or a nightstand, maybe you have a three-legged stool in your house. What I learned over the years at Lemonly is like, we get customers in 3 ways. Inbound, which is somebody would Google like infographic company, infographic design agency. And that was really how a lot of our scaling story happened, because 2011, we were early. We became probably one of the 2 best companies in the world making infographics. So if you Googled those terms, Lemonly would show up. And that's how we got a Google and a Netflix and a Marriott. They found us. But at the end of a year, after we got rolling, inbound would only make up about 25% of our revenue. Well, what was the most of it? What we called organic, or what I call like repeat customers. So about 70% of our revenue was people coming back, because guess what? They loved working with us. They were happy. They were satisfied. And one of the beauties that we were like a very project-based agency, meaning we would do your project anywhere from 5 to 25K. And then we'd kind of say, hey, come back when you need us. Well, you got to have a better pitch than that, right? Like I always say to my agency folks, like, don't finish the relationship without bringing the next idea. They don't have to say yes, but you're planting that seed. You're planting that idea for what else could happen. And so we actually did feast pretty well, because people kept coming back. And so at the end of the year, almost 70% of our business were people who had worked with us before. And in the creative work, I think almost all services, when you work with someone the second and third and fourth time, it also gets more profitable. Right? We'd start to get to the point in creative work where we knew their design preferences. We knew their brand really well. We're sending out like the first draft of an infographic, and clients like, looks great, approved. All of a sudden, what we're shooting for, maybe a 20% margin, all of a sudden this project is like 50% margin on that profit, because we eliminated a lot of the steps, our speed to deliver. So that's organic. And then the third one is outbound. And that's the one you were just talking about. And people don't want to do that one. That's joining a group cohort, like how I met you. It's going to a conference. It's maybe some cold DMs on LinkedIn. This stuff's hard, and it's probably the lowest conversion, But the whole concept of the three-legged stool is that you need all three legs. And so your stool can be a little wobbly. Like that's probably outbound is probably 5%. So let's call that 70, 25, 5. Like that's a pretty wobbly stool. But we had all three legs of the stool. Because there were times when I'm projecting, one of the first things I do with my entrepreneurs is help them build a scorecard. And so understand that like April was a slow sales month. That means May or June might be a slow delivery month, meaning like our designers are going to need work. Or conversely, John really crushed it in March on selling. That means by about mid-April, our designers are going to be really busy. And so understanding the cycles of your business and recognizing it's okay if your stool is wobbly, but make sure you have all three legs.
Okay, I want to dig into that a little bit because I like the it's okay if it's wobbly, right? Because I would say, especially when I started, it's getting more even now. But SEO. I'm not creating the first infographic site, one of two, where your SEO blows up and now you've got a lot of inbound sales, right?
Yep.
For solopreneurs who are maybe in a crowded space, right? And like the inbound isn't there yet. They're building, so maybe organic. You've got some repeat clients, but really you need outbound sales. Like any tips for that of like, maybe it's, hey, honestly, 60% of my sales are outbound. The other 40% are between the other two. How do you get more balance there?
Yeah. So I'll actually tie inbound and outbound together. So I'm a big believer in creating content. If you're in the services business, really any business, but if you're in our business, people are going to work with folks they know, like, and trust. So you have a podcast. I'm a guest on your podcast. That's one way. I'm big on social media. I know our friend John doesn't do that. You can choose, you can choose email, social, podcasting, whatever you want. But I create and publish content every single day. I think that in 2025, services businesses, I think almost every business should think like a media company first. And so you're publishing content, creating content that could be blogs, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, as a way to show what you know, to kind of show the work. I always say, if you want to get like show what you want to sell more of, meaning you say you want to do more speaking gigs, like show pictures of you doing speaking gigs, right? Yeah. You want to sell more brand photography, like show pictures of you doing brand photography. And if that means you have to start with a nonprofit or, whatever, if you're really just getting started, but show the work. So I think the monetization triangle is like, show what you know, have clients say how great it is, like share their wins. Hey, I helped Jacob go from K to 25K month after month, and then do what I call hand raisers. And so that's saying like, if you want to learn how to go from 10 to 20K a month, comment solo below, right? And so that's kind of this like mixture of inbound, outbound. And what I love about creating content, people then say, well, who do I reach out to? Like, I don't want to just go onto LinkedIn and just start DMing whoever. Because we've all gotten those messages, and guess what? We don't read them.
Yep.
So this is where inbound, outbound connect. You're creating content. People like your post. People comment on your post. Then I slide into the DMs and I do outbound sales. And so it's slightly like maybe lukewarm or like warmish leads. And like, if you told me right now, I have 300 people who follow me on Instagram, that's not very big. Well, guess what? Those are 300 leads. And then you're going to say, well, some of them are my college friends or my mom. Okay, yeah, well, let's ask them, do you know anybody who might need a coach? Like anytime someone follows me, I hit them with this prompt. Hey, thanks for the follow. Are you looking for a business coach or are you just here for the videos? And like, that's a simple question and they can say either or. I'm just here for the videos. Great. I hope you find some value. Let me know if you have questions. And then, wait, who do you coach? Okay, now we've started a conversation. Right. And so I do like Instagram for the speed in which you can go from content to direct message. And don't sleep on DMs because DMs is a sales conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is something I recently started with LinkedIn. Our friend Joe was teaching me some LinkedIn stuff. And sales, I think it's all about, you need permission to sell. Right? Like you need to be given permission. If not, that's the conversation we hate that sounds salesy. Right?
That's the difference between the car salesman and
Right. It's the cold DM of like, we're not even connected. I don't know you. It's, it shows like the in-mail, whatever, sponsored. And it's a page. And I'm like, if you think I'm going to read this, that's nothing. But like even something I've started doing is, someone likes a post and has viewed my profile and they send a connection request. I'm like, those are 3 things that you've told me you're interested. And so I've just sent a message. It's like, hey, what did you like about that post? Like, what specifically did you like about it? Does this connect with your role? Something simple like that. And even if it's a conversation of, I had one on feedback that I was talking to a guy about, and he was like, "Hey, I like the feedback method. It's something we have in order." And we just had a conversation about feedback. And then now I can throw hey, I offer this as a workshop if you're
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah. A couple good examples. So like, I think of, maybe you've seen some of these in your feed, but there's a graphic designer guy I follow who does rebrands of like famous logos. But
Yes.
these aren't even paid projects. These aren't his clients. But he's like, I redesigned the,
Alan Peters.
yes, same guy. He's in Minnesota.
Yep.
Neighboring state here. He's like, I redesigned the Gatorade logo. I'm like, dang,
Yep.
that's sick. And you're like, I know him. I kind of like him. And I trust that
I bought his book.
See, there we go.
Yeah, I'm like, there you go. It works.
And so that is that's sales. But also I love creating content is I think the work works on yourself, meaning like it also makes you a better speaker. It makes your ideas more succinct and clear. It forces you to be willing to like turn the camera on or talk about your ideas, write your ideas, whatever it might be. You're an author. And that's powerful because that'll translate to a sales conversation. It'll translate to your client relationships, giving referrals. And so I think the work of creating media really actually works on yourself.
I love it. That's really good. I've said something similar about just if you want to be a good writer, just start writing. Like,
Yeah.
Write blogs, write LinkedIn posts, write emails, like read good. Yeah, you start getting that habit of doing it, and then you're going to get better at it the more you do it. It comes with the reps.
I kind of call it like
So,
show the know-how without showing the how, right? Because I'm going to hire you for the how. I think the best analogy to what we are as coaches is, yeah, you got a gym membership, but do you go? Or when you go, do you really work that hard? Right.
right.
And so I'm showing you.
Do you know what piece of equipment to use?
Exactly. I'm showing you
Yeah.
by my muscles, not me, but I'm showing you by my know-how that that I'm a good trainer. Now, if you hire me, I'll actually show you how to do it, how to get the muscles.
I love it. Okay, something else you mentioned, you've got this scorecard you have people do.
Mm-hmm.
What's typically on that scorecard?
Yeah, it's called the Solopreneur Scorecard, the simple Solopreneur Scorecard. It's got 5 metrics. And the issue here is most businesses, be honest, are like, most entrepreneurs are like, hey, I made more money than I spent last month. Like, that's a win.
Profit.
But they don't know really why, or they don't know what next month looks like, or hopefully we made money. Sometimes you have business owners who have record revenues and make less money that year, right? And so 5 metrics. And the idea is to just track how the business moves. So I think at marketing, sales, revenue, delivery, and profit. And so marketing is like, what do we do? What are we doing to make sure we're constantly telling the world about ourselves? That could be blog post published, emails sent. For me, it's like reels posted because I like the media part.
Yep.
But I'm just trying to track, am I doing the effort? I can't always have control of who sees it, or if that one, like if they love the hook on that one versus the other one. But like, am I doing the outputs, putting in the work? Sales then is like, again, are you having opportunities, conversations? That's like proposals sent, maybe discovery calls if you do like a book on your Calendly. But are you having the reps and at bats to close deals? Again, you can't control if they had the budget or if they say, let's do this in Q3 or I can't afford you. But like, are you having conversations about solving problems versus I had coffee with a friend, I'm not growing my business, right? Like that wasn't your customer.
Right.
So I'll tell they might say revenue's down, but like I had 4 or 5 sales calls this week. I'm like, great, keep doing that because the sales will come. So then the next one's really easy, revenue, just how many dollars say it closed. But then the way we get from revenue down to profit is delivery, meaning as a service company, what's the metric that tells us we're doing our work on time, on budget, efficiently? So like at Lemonly, we did like design hours, like billable hours, tracking of how much time we spend on the actual work. For me, I add up all my Zoom calls as a coach and just look at how much time did I spend coaching. And my goal is that revenue goes up and coaching hours actually stays the same.
Stay the same.
And so, or maybe someday go down, who knows? Like, which could be a couple ways, either charging more. That's the idea of doing group coaching. What other ways can I add value, or my hours spent on Zoom doesn't have to increase. So then that leads to profit. Like, did you actually make money? Because revenue is not profit. And a lot of people just think like, hey, 25K, and then realize they spent 23K or whatever, So I generally think all business runs through that simple triangle of marketing, sales, and delivery. You add in these financial metrics, and then the goal is how do we spin that wheel faster and faster so that you don't get in the sold a 20K project in March. Now I have nothing in April.
Right. And that's, 5,000 in May, and you're hoping for the next 30K project in June.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So something else you've talked about is these. I know I've thought about this as as a solopreneur. I think that when I worked for corporate, I'll say I felt like I had a really good routine in like my day because I knew exactly what my job was. You know what I mean? Like I'm not thinking about my job 24/7. I could shut it off. And then when I started my own thing, I really had to build a good routine to get in the right rhythm. Because if not, my week can totally be thrown. I have a calendar link that's just out there, like.
Yep.
So something you've talked about is 5 daily non-negotiables. What are those, and how do they help solopreneurs avoid burnout and be more successful?
Yeah, so this will tie in all the things we talked about, both scorecard and sales and content. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can count it on your hand. And these are the 5 things I try to do every day. I do every day, non-negotiable. So number 1 is each day I wake up and can we pause this? All right, so 5 daily non-negotiables. You can count them on your hands. Number 1 is I try to read 10 pages of a book. So 1 for 10. And this, you can listen 10 minutes. I don't care, whatever, but try to input some knowledge, right? Learn from others. And I usually do say nonfiction for that. We talked about on my show, like fiction is great before bedtime, but try to get 10 pages of a book every day. Number 2, look at your goals twice a day. And so I do a Slack bot where at 8 a.m. and at 5 p.m., it just like pushes my 5 goals for the year. And this is the classic, like what gets measured gets managed. I say your frequency is what you frequently see, right? So if something matters to you, look at it. Otherwise, you won't see it. Like you get to April and you're like, oh yeah, that was a goal that I set in December. So just look at them. I just think kind of woo-woo, but you can kind of manifest the more you think about this stuff. Number 3 is to work out for 30 minutes. 3 stands for 30. So exercise every day, 30 minutes. This doesn't have to be, I'm not going to measure your heart rate or how heavy you bench. I just get outside, move your body, get on a treadmill, whatever it is for 30 minutes. Why does that matter in business? Because I just think all problems get better after like getting outside, or our clarity of thought is stronger. I also think we got to take care of ourselves so that we can be building a business for the long run.
That's right.
So we can show up for our families and show up for our customers. Number 4 is to post 4 times a day. And that sounds like a lot, but this is what I was talking about earlier is like stories. And this would be like me grabbing my phone and be like, hey guys, I'm going to be on the Waves podcast with Jacob. Looking forward to it. It's just, this can be raw. Like I say, document, don't create. You don't have to like have the perfect filter and the perfect hook. Like just document the journey of building the business, because that is the content, is the journey. And you build these fans, right? You and me, we only need 50 customers, right? We don't need 1,000 customers. So document. And then again, the work will work on you as you create content. And number 5 is reach out to 5 people. And so this is sales, but some of it's going to be connected to the content you're posting because someone likes or engages with your post. And some of it might be like, become the type of person who checks in on people like, hey, old customer, hey, friend, like just how you doing? I thought of you, And so this can be a text message. This can be a LinkedIn DM, but just the idea of checking in with 5 people every day. And so if you think through those 5 daily non-negotiables, you have learning, you have sort of vision with your goals. You have it sounds like exercise, but I really think of it as more like clarity of thought and peace. Marketing is posting content and sales is reaching out. So it's like, that's kind of every aspect of a business in just these 5 daily habits. And I say to people, like I say to my entrepreneurs, I'll say this to your audience. If you do those 5 things for 30 days, your life will change, because most people won't do it.
Most people won't. And I would even break up into 2 categories. Something we talked about a lot at Chick-fil-A was leading yourself, leading others, leading the business. And I think all 5 really cover leading. Your first 3 are leading yourself, right? Like you're learning, you're giving yourself clarity with your goals, which is leading yourself. And then with your body, right? Like getting exercise and making yourself better. And then with the last 2, you're leading the business, right? Mm-hmm. You're handling marketing and you're growing your business in that way, which I think is really important. And like you said, I mean, that'll help you personally a lot, but then I think you're going to see the business benefit of that as well. And I don't have those exact 5.
Yeah. I'll accept your critique if you're like the CEO of Chick-fil-A and you're like, well, what do I need to post 4 times a day on? But for those of us in these services businesses, these sort of personal brand driven businesses where it is about know, like, and trust. It is about clarity of thought and ideas. I think this stuff really works because just think about 5 leads for 30 days. That's 150 leads. And we just said, like, we only need 30 customers in our business. So
that's right. I love it. John, where can people find you, connect with you, and if they want to work with you and not be a solopreneur, avoid burnout, where can they do that?
Yeah, so johntmeyer.com is my website, Meyer, and that's my handles on social. I try to make a long form video each week on YouTube, so you can find me there. Hopefully that's valuable. And then the next cohort of No More Solo will go live in July. So like I said, it's a 12-week program. We keep it to about 12 entrepreneurs. So it's really get that group coaching of learning from other solopreneurs. I've now had people like team up on projects, which is really cool. Like a graphic designer and a copywriter are now working with clients. And so that's really cool to get in that group cohort mentality. We've both done things like that. And so you can check that out as well on johntmeyer.com, my coaching info.
I love it. John, thanks you so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Everybody listening, hope you have a great week. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.